the way we secure our networks today is a little bit arcane, is a little bit old. Networks are being built, and then security is an afterthought. You first build a network, and then you try to figure out how to fit security there. Also, the security that we're trying to fit into networks today is security that was good 5, 10 years ago when all we were doing with the internet is web browsing and email. In today's world where we have applications like WebEx and SharePoint and Facebook and Twitter and others, I'm not sure that the security we're trying to fit into our networks is the right one. IT has found itself more and more saying no to the business because of security reasons, meaning the business wants to do something and IT says, sorry, we cannot do that because of these security concerns, which to me is unacceptable. I think that it's a lot of it is related to the lack of the appropriate technology being available for IT to safely enable things that the business needs enabled. But in any case, it's not an excuse. IT's role is to enable the business and do whatever the business asks the IT to do. It's a business. You have countries doing it, governments doing it, you have mafia and criminal organizations doing it. Hacking today is big business. Not to forget also espionage, commercial espionage. And because it's a big business, there is not a lot of money in it. There's a lot of money going into hacking, and that, of course, increases the quality of the hacking. One thing that we're seeing, one trend that we're seeing right now in terms of breaking into corporate networks is that attackers don't really try to go directly at the data center. At the end of the day, the goal of the attacker is to get to the data center because that's where the data is, that's where the important information is, that's how you make money as an attacker. What's different is that we just don't see the attackers going directly after the data center anymore. And when you think about it, most enterprises today spend most of their money at protecting the data center. Your IPS is sitting at the data center. Your big firewall that can run at gazillion gigabits per second sits at the data center. The data center is where most of the protection is. Whereas the way attackers work today is that they exploit a vulnerability with one of your users that is then able to get to the data center. So you exploit a vulnerability on a user's desktop, a user that is allowed to go to the data center, and from there you jump to the data center. That's what happened to RSA a few weeks ago. That's what happened to Google Gmail last year. That's what happened to Morgan Stanley last year. That's what happens with pretty much all the things that you hear about and the many, many different things that we see that you don't hear about. And there is lack of protection in that area today.
Because it is a business, they're going after the data and they're using the applications to get there. And that's a little bit different than what we saw in the past.
Yeah, they use the applications because users use applications, and that's the easiest way to get to the user. Again, we don't really see anyone trying to break into a data center today by going directly at the web servers or directly at other servers that might be at the data center. It's all about exploiting vulnerabilities or finding a way into the end-user machine through Facebook, through Dropbox, through you send it, and through other applications that end users are using.
If you go back a generation, it was the block text messaging, the block chatting, block video. That's, I think, the natural tendency because you fear something that you can't manage. Blocking. It is actually an admission of failure. I think you've not been able to evolve and select the right technology to protect, because that's our core mission. We're protecting the integrity of the operation. We need to guarantee student success. That doesn't mean block them from the tools that will make them good citizens, effective students, make them productive. This is not going to stop. That's why I refer to it as tsunami. There's the person that could sit there and start building a wall. It's not going to have any effect. And there's a person that can take advantage of it and say, this is a huge amount of energy. Maybe I'm going to build something that harnesses that energy and converts it into something that's useful. I think that's the evolution that I see. So the students are going to bring more and more technology. They're now the procurement process, right? My job is more and more to provide the right information and to guarantee that it gets to the right people so that decisions can be made by the students, the faculty, administration. And we can take advantage of all that energy that they're providing.
At the end of the day, you got to support the business. If you do not provide the means for the business to do their work and grow revenue and allow the employees to be more productive, they'll go around you. They'll go around security and they'll mandate that you do it. And then that's the worst case for you, for a security professional to have, is to be dictated to, and then instead of having some mitigated risk, you're fully exposed, because a business would do that. So one of the things I try to do and tell my team to do is work with the business. Let's create a win-win.
The icing on the cake with application-based firewalling is when you get approval and support from the senior team. We were able to do that by using application-based firewalling to allow Facebook to be used as a read-only device. We were able to apply individual application identifiers to Facebook from Palo Alto to eliminate the ability to chat, to email, to run APIs, to run games, to allow any malicious hooks into Facebook. Now we realize that we need to be enablers of information, but we need to protect that information. So now we have a scenario where we allow people to use Facebook as a read-only or just posting on the wall, so that people can use it internally to keep track of their kids at home, or they can use it for internal fundraising purposes. And that turned out to be a big success because we had always had social media sites like Facebook blocked.
As a matter of fact, in the last couple of months, we allowed our field employees to use Facebook, to use Twitter, to use all the social network technologies, so they can communicate better with our customers.
So we looked at, streaming media. A lot of people have, kind of issues with bandwidth control. I just give you that example. Part of this is like, our 100, our internet pipe is saturated. What's going on? And it's like when we looked at that, and this is during March Madness, and what happened is that we looked at it, we saw the application flash. Wow, it's, we have a lot of sessions going on at the same time, and we need to control bandwidth, Now, in lieu of that, we actually had streaming media bandwidth control already in place. So there's a cap on that. So what we decided, just move that in there, and it controlled the bandwidth. And it actually allowed business, function to continue to work. Because without that, bandwidth, there's no business function, and people loses connection.
The interesting problem that we had was we told people not to use our corporate email for their personal email, yet we blocked access to all outside internal email systems like Google and Yahoo and even local Comcast. So we said, can we use the Palo Alto and application identification technology to allow access to email with blocking the threats? And yes, we could, because we now allow access to all those email systems, but we strip the attachments using Palo Alto, and then we use the Palo Alto threat prevention module to actually, if there's links in the email, to actually block links to malicious code or anything that could get in. So that was another huge success story with senior management. And again, it's another way to enable access to information, but also securing the organization.
I think we've had a discussion a few months ago here with Marcus J. Ranum. The traditional proxy-based application security, which preceded Stateful Inspection, failed because of one reason, and that's the fact that it did not offer connectivity. It was too restrictive. You cannot have proxies for all the different applications that enterprises want to use. There's no Facebook proxy. There is no WebEx proxy. There's no SharePoint proxy. There is no streaming media proxy, and so on and so forth. It also has performance issues and other things, whereas Palo Alto Networks was able to take that functionality, the functionality of providing security at the application level, and offer it at extremely high speeds across more than 1,000 applications. It's important to understand that securely enabling an application and being able to block or allow an application are two different things. Being able to control an application. If all you want to do is to block Facebook, you don't necessarily need a Next Generation Firewall. Just take URL filtering, even configure a firewall to block all the IP addresses that Facebook is using. You have to change it every day, but that's okay. This is not what Next Generation Firewalls are about. It's not about allowing or blocking the use of Facebook or any other application. It's about making Facebook and WebEx and SharePoint and Dropbox and any other application that you choose your users to use or you choose to allow your users to use, making these applications as safe as email and web browsing. You see, you're spending a lot of money today, a lot of energy on securing web and email. You run them through anti-malware devices. You run them through data leakage prevention, IPSs, and many maybe other technologies. And you do none of this for Facebook, WebEx, and SharePoint. The idea behind Next Generation Firewalls and behind securely enabling the use of applications is to take exactly what you do for web and email, anti-malware, IPS, DLP, content filtering, and applying it to these applications in exactly the same way. Remember, security has to be uniform. You have to secure everything all the time in exactly the same way. If you have a weakest link, the attacker will find the weakest link and exploit it. And that's what next generation firewalls are about.